Monday Night Lights. I'm Tim Hoffmeister alongside Lewis Schaefer once again. We have a good show in store for you today. We're going to talk some NBA and NHL draft, potential free agents, the MLB, and the big story of Pete Rose. And then we're going to give some off-season grades. First, we're going to start off with the NBA draft, and what a draft it was. Turned out really good for some teams, not so great for other teams. Those two teams that it worked really well for, Timberwolves getting the number one pick in the draft, the guy that we all believe it will be the best all-around two-way player eventually, Karl-Anthony Towns from Kentucky. The other team that turned out really well, the Lakers, took D'Angelo Russell, point guard / shooting guard, possibly the heir to Kobe Bryant. The two teams that it didn't turn out really good for, the Sixers, who took their third straight big man, Jahlil Okafor, and the Knicks, who took Porzingis.
Yeah, I figured we'd have to get to this eventually. I like the Towns pick. I mean, that was a no-brainer, in my opinion. The D'Angelo Russell pick, again, the Lakers could have gone either way with either Okafor or Russell and been perfectly fine. I think they made the good move in taking Russell because there's more quality big men in the league than there are quality guards, and when you're a team like the Lakers, you can get anybody. Then your team pissed me the hell off. I was watching the draft. The Lakers took Russell. Rarely do I stop eating once I start eating dinner. I stopped to watch the seconds tick down and for Silver to come out. And then they had the tribute before your pick. I was like, this is killing me. They got to speed this up. I was like, and then they took Okafor. I mean, the Okafor pick was a good pick. I don't blame you guys. Best player available, which is, what Hinkie said he would do all along. And then we get to my Knicks with Porzingis. A lot of Knicks fans have a problem with this pick, but, at the end of the day, yeah, you could have taken Emmanuel Mudiay, but, he's further away from contributing on the NBA level. Porzingis has so much upside. How could you not take this shot on him at 4? I'm totally okay with him going there.
Yeah, it's tough with lottery picks who are international. I know there's been 23 of them. 3 have become all-stars. So it's tough to really kind of get on board with the international guys. And especially with Porzingis, he's a great shooter, but he's only 230 pounds and stands at 7'1". So until he really puts some meat on his bones, he's not going to be any threat rebounding the ball. So you just got to hope his shot really keeps him in the league, because there's a fine line of him becoming the next Andre Bargnani.
Yeah. And what better team would take that chance than the team that Bargnani plays for right now?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to learn from the best if he wants to be the next Bargnani. But it's the same way he could become the next Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, Dirk wasn't the best rebounder. He still isn't the best rebounder. But he's a huge offensive threat. So I think if he does become Dirk-like, you got to steal. And if he comes Bargnani-like, he'll just be a bust just like Bargnani.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, and they took him at 4. I mean, you don't want to say you can throw away a top 5 pick, but, the Knicks were supposed to be much higher. The lottery didn't go their way. So, I mean, similar to the Sixers taking Okafor, best player available, even though they took 2 big men the last 2 years, same deal. I mean, Porzingis was the best guy available, and they went with it.
Yeah. I would say either him or Hazonia were probably right there. I probably would have took Hazonia if I was a Knicks fan. I would want them to take Hazonia, but I mean, like I said, foreign prospects, they're they're just really a wild card anymore.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, like you said, they're both 4, and it's not like, Hazonia was in the NCAA this year. So, you're taking the gamble on either of them, and then you look who went after them. Cauley Stein wasn't worth the 4th pick. You can make the case for Mudai, but, Stanley Johnson, Justice Winslow, and Frank Kaminsky, I can't really see making the case for them at 4. So, Porzingis had the upside that had him potentially going, even maybe 3 to the Sixers, or even 2. I saw in some mock drafts. So the fact that they were able to get him at 4 with Towns, Russell, and Okafor gone, I like it.
Yeah.
That's my comment. I tweeted about it and said, those are my more comments later. That's my next comment.
Yeah, I agree with you there. After Hazonia and Porzingis, you really had a drop off, it seemed like. So they could have went with either one, but Porzingis now has a chip on his shoulder after getting booed by all the Knicks fans.
Yep, and it works for Gallinari, so.
Yeah. Now let's get to the Sixers pick. I know all the Sixers fans out there questioning why we took a 3rd big man. I myself believe it is a really good pick. I think he's a really good player. And the only reason I'm hesitant about the pick, well, I'm not hesitant about the pick, I'm hesitant about why we picked him, is because maybe this is showing that Embiid's injury is more serious. Because I'm sure we could have traded him at the draft. Like, right after we picked him, I guarantee you Hinkie was fielding plenty of calls. Probably from the Knicks. Probably from the Kings if they were serious about moving Cousins. I heard the Celtics were real big on him. The Bucks were looking for a big man. So, there was probably calls that Hinkie was getting, but he decided to keep Okafor. That's where I'm not really sure if this means Embiid's injury is really serious, if Hinkie is waiting to see what each guy can do before trading one. It's just... And it definitely adds a year or 2 on the rebuilding process.
I mean, I can see where you're getting that, but I mean, the thing is, Nerlens' skill set, although he was a center in college at Kentucky, fit being a power forward as well. And when you got Embiid, it was kind of like, okay, pure center and guy that could play both, we have it set. And like you said, now they take Okafor. But, you look at, how hot of a commodity, I guess you could say, that rookie and young big men are. If Embiid's healthy and he plays well, you still have, if he's playing well, you have him. Plus, you have the number 3 pick in the draft at Okafor. Then you can maybe look to getting someone. And I think it puts the Sixers in a situation of, they're in a tough, I should not have said that, wrong word choice. Very easy Eastern Conference. 2 big men and, not Ish Smith. Hopefully, if the Sixers bring in someone, that might get you to the 7 or 8 seed, for all we know, with how bad the East is. And, if you have a situation where come February, both Embiid and Okafor have gotten playing time, then it becomes an interesting factor because, maybe one of them gets moved then. It seems like it has like that same kind of feel as the Eagles did with Mariota. Like, what's going to happen now?
Yeah, and looking at it, like, it seems like a disappointment for Sixers fans because we're all thinking the same way. You're thinking Russell's going to fall to us. People are saying he's the most NBA ready. He can play shooting guard. It seems like the Lakers are going to play him at point guard, which I don't really agree with because he's not very strong with his opposite hand. And we needed a shooter. So we're thinking if you have Russell, Embiid, Noel, those are your 3 you're building around. and they're not going to be getting big contracts for another 3 to 4 years. So we're thinking you can max out a small forward or a point guard, most likely a small forward because there's a plethora in free agency, and then you just kind of fill in a point guard. You're thinking you got 35, 40 wins right there.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah.
just 30 to 35, and then we're seeing, like, Sixers fans are seeing, wow, we just got 30 to 35, huge improvement, and then that'll still give you a decent draft pick next year that you can continue to build as you continue to get better. But then the Lakers take Russell, and now we're looking at, like, all right, so we have starting, we got Noel and either Embiid or Okafor, depending on Embiid's injury, and then whoever's coming off the bench. And then shooting guard is still empty. Small forward is empty. Point guard's empty. I mean, it's probably going to be Ish Smith, Hollis Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, Pierre Jackson will come, and he was in the D League. And it's just like, you're looking at it and you're thinking, maybe 25 wins, if you're lucky. So it just...
Yeah.
It was really just a big blow to Sixers fans when Russell was taken by the Lakers. I think it was bigger of a blow than when the Eagles couldn't get Mariota.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the Sixers were in a similar situation to the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks obviously have more needs than the Sixers because we have Melo and nobody. The Sixers have somewhat of a base built if Embiid's healthy. But at the same time, the same thing kind of happened. Like I said, in the Knicks case, Okafor went. Karl-Anthony and Kaminsky weren't worth the 4th pick, so they went Porzingis. And I think we saw the same thing at 3. Russell went. Mudiay went 7, so clearly teams did not think he was worth the 3rd of all picks. Winslow went 10. There was not really a guy, once Russell went, that was worth a top 3 pick. And the only guy left that was either Porzingis or Okafor, depending on which way he looked at. And they're both bigs, so he took the best available.
Yeah. And I think if the lottery didn't change anything and the Lakers stay 4, Knicks are 2, I believe the Sixers do get Russell. And another thing with the Sixers is I was really thinking they might try and trade up into the first round again, get a point guard there. Because it was a very deep point guard draft, but I think when Cameron Payne went 14 to the Thunder, I think that's who they were targeting. And I think that kind of really, they were like, all right, no one really impresses us this draft, and we're not going to contend anyway, so we don't need to overpay to get him.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that, you had, I mean, of all things, Vasquez went for, I remember seeing how, what was it, like a 1st and a 2nd?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Vasquez. He's not an all-star by any means, but all of a sudden he's worth a first-round pick. Clearly the price of a veteran guard was through the roof, and then so were the rookies,
Yeah, and there was a couple deals that I was hoping for and thinking about. When the Nuggets took Mudiay, I was thinking, oh, what if Lawson came to the Sixers? Because I think Lawson's an awesome player. I saw one tweet about possibly the Magic and a package with Hazonia going to the Sixers for Okafor. I thought that would have been awesome, but again, they have Vucevic, so they didn't really need Okafor. It's probably just a bad source or whatever. So, I mean, as a Sixers fan, you can't be upset with the pick. You can just be... It's just kind of looking at what could have been and now looking at what is.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
All right, so I'm going to ask you who the biggest steal of the draft is right now.
Biggest steal, All things considered, and this is not my bias showing whatsoever, the biggest steal, I'd have to say, Jerry and Grant at 19, drafted by the Wizards is a Knick. You know, and the reason I say that is this: in October, the Knicks got 2 second-rounders for J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert, who both, although they're idiots, and you know, as I saw on Twitter after the finals, the Trash Brothers. You know, they're better than Tim Hardaway Jr. Tim Hardaway Jr. is decent every 8 games. Other than that, he's terrible. And then all of a sudden, Phil pulls off a top 20 pick for him to get Jerry and Grant. You know, I think that playing a factor in it makes Grant the biggest steal of the draft.
You kind of took my answer. It's funny because your bias was towards the Knicks, my bias was towards Notre Dame. I was looking at this draft and thinking there could have been a lot of steals, but a couple guys went earlier than expected, like Kaminsky. He was supposed to go middle of the first round. He went 9. If he goes middle of the first round, I believe he's a steal. Cameron Payne goes 14. He was supposed to be in the 20s. If he goes in the 20s, I believe he's a steal. But my steal of the draft is going to be Sam Decker. He went 18, so he went middle of the late first round. I think the way he plays fits what the Rockets do. They need a shooter coming off the bench. I think he's a great shooter. He reminds me of Chandler Parsons coming out of college, just a little more athletic. And, of course, Chandler Parsons was drafted by the Rockets in the second round and had great success there. Now he's getting paid huge money by the Mavericks. I think Decker emulates him, just as a little more athletic, and that's why he was able to get into the first round. And I think he'll do great helping the Rockets in the playoffs. No doubt they're going to make it.
Oh yeah. I agree with you on him too. I think he's a big steal. You know, what you said though, I think there's so much more scouting. There was a lot more scouting in this draft that got out to the public than I had ever seen before. All of a sudden, Thursday afternoon, my phone was blowing up with the ESPN app saying, you know, Kaminsky's rising up draft boards, Decker's falling, Payne's rising up. You know, there's no surprises anymore. You kind of just figure, okay, you know, this guy's going here. You know, this guy's going in this range.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There was a lot of picks, other than really the Russell pick to the Lakers, even though that was rumored a lot during that day. Other than that, and Cauley Stein going 6, there wasn't really any surprises. I mean, Cameron Payne went earlier than expected, but his stock was rising up until the draft. Kaminsky went earlier than expected, but I mean, nothing. There wasn't really a surprise. It just happened. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, not really big surprises.
Yeah, nothing like Bill Simmons saying, whoa, like when the Cavs took Bennett.
Yeah, exactly. Who do you think the biggest bust in the draft will be? We're just going to stick to first round because that's all people really care about anyway.
Yeah. Second round can even be a bust. I mean, you're barely getting drafted anyway.
Very true. My steal in the draft was going to be in the second round because you took Grant. I was going to go with Connaughton, but I figured I'd stay in the first round.
You had to stick to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
My biggest bust, I would have to say 16, Terry Rozier to the Celtics. Way overdrafted. You know, he didn't play well this year, except in certain games. Very, very Tyus Jones-like, and Tyus Jones went almost 10 picks later. You know, supposedly the Celtics scouts fell in love with him in his freshman year, and that's what led to him getting drafted so high. You know, they put the bad year behind him. But I really do. I think they overdrafted him, and, you know, they took him 16, but they have Marcus Smart, who they just took last year.
And Isaiah Thomas.
And Isaiah Thomas coming off the bench. So how much playing time is he really going to get? And he's a 16th pick, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do think he will. I don't know if I want to say bust. I think he'll be a rotation player at the best of his career. One player that I think will really be a bust, even though I hate to say it, I think he's a good guy. I don't want him to fail, but it seems too easy for him to fail. Is Willie Cauley-Stein?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, just seeing there's three factors that I think will really affect him. Is that his lack of an offensive game, his injury history. He was fighting an injury up until this year in the draft. I was surprised he actually went up rather than fell. And three, he was drafted by the Kings. And it just seems like the Kings, no matter who they draft, I mean, Cousins is tearing it up, but he's like they aren't able to build around him, and it seems like everyone else is just doesn't do so great. I think Cauley-Stein isn't going to do much. I mean, he'll be a good defensive player, but in this league, defense really doesn't do anything for you. So I see the lack of the offensive game really hurting him, and then injuries will start to pile up just because he's a big guy with injury history already, and we know how that turns out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the only thing, I like Cauley-Stein. I think he's a good player, and I think the one plus side I'm looking to this, I guess you could say, is when obviously much later in the draft that year, but when Carl with the Nuggets took Fareed. Now Fareed obviously wasn't a center coming out of college, but very similar skills. Fareed was good defensively, and he was a tenacious rebounder. Cauley-Stein's not as good of a rebounder, but part of me thinks, that they may work with him at maybe becoming a power forward and being a really big power forward, to kind of make up for the fact that DeMarcus Cousins has to take on most of the offensive load. So if they could have, DeMarcus Cousins, he plays good defense, but I mean, you can tell this year his defense wasn't as good because he had the team on his back. It wasn't him and Rudy Gay's team, it was his team. And you saw that take a toll on his defense. So I feel like this might be a move, ultimately, to build around Cousins, try to convert Cauley-Stein into a power forward, and kind of have a pseudo Kenneth Fareed, I guess you could say, in there with Cousins to help him out defensively when he's got to score all the points that the Kings could manage.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. They kind of did that with Noel too, moving him to power forward, and his offensive game really started to take a shape towards the end of the year. It helped him with the year off because that's all he worked on. So it'll be interesting to see how long it will take Cauley-Stein to get an offensive game.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, if they move him to power forward, I mean, you're still down low, obviously, and especially him, he's got no outside shot at all unless they start working on it. No shot at all. Not even an outside shot. He can't score. But he's, in the paint a little less. So it might help him injury-wise that he's not getting banged around on every single shot. Getting banged around by some guy trying to get a rebound.
Yeah.
So that might help him out.
I agree with you. All right, now we're going to switch to free agents. The free agency opens Wednesday, I believe, July 1st.
Yes, Wednesday.
Okay, that is Wednesday. Okay, my days are all mixed up. We're just gonna look at three free agents and then kind of see where we think they're gonna end up. So we're gonna start off with LaMarcus Aldridge. Where do you think he'll end up?
If we had done this on last week's show, I would have said the Knicks. Now that the Knicks have Porzingis, I think he's going to be a Laker.
I think he's going to be with the Spurs.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk, and it's Lakers, Knicks, Spurs. It seems like, and he seems kind of like a Popovich guy. Like he just does what he has to do, doesn't talk, and I think going to the Spurs, he won't have to be the workhorse anymore. Whereas you saw in the playoffs, he was taking every shot, and it just took a toll on him, and he was missing a lot. He just looked out of sync. So I think going there with Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, if they keep Danny Green, I think that'll be a great fit for him, and I think that makes the Spurs a huge contender.
Not like they already are or anything.
Yeah, I mean, they already are huge contenders, but this makes them even bigger. And I think the Lakers, it would be too much of the workload again. I mean, yeah, Kobe's going to be there, but Kobe's also 38, so.
Yeah. I mean, with the Spurs, too, it will also help Duncan out because it's LaMarcus Aldridge. It's not Matt Bonner coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Tim Duncan limits his minutes.
All right, next one we'll go with, let's see. We'll go with Kevin Love.
Kevin Love. I'm going to give you... I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to run through teams in my head. All right. I'm going with one of two teams. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, it's fine. We break the rules here on the podcast.
All right. I'm going to go with either the Rockets because they were close to getting Bosch last year. So I don't see why they wouldn't make a run at Love if he's actually looking to leave Cleveland. Or Oklahoma City.
Really?
I have a feeling that Oklahoma City might already be looking to the post-Durant years.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm Jessica Cameron with Mo Hamilton here at the Barclays Center for the 2000
being the third option. And while he would be the third option for a year, then KD leaves, and he's playing with someone that he played with in college in Russell Westbrook. So I think that might play a factor that, and you hear it all the time, no one wants to go to Oklahoma City because it's Oklahoma City. But I think the management might definitely be starting to look towards the post-Durant years. And Love would make a lot of sense to bring in, team up with Westbrook, and not necessarily hit a dry spot if Durant were to bolt for Washington or wherever next year.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. That's a very bold prediction. There's two teams I look at for Kevin Love. The Lakers, just because he's from California, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. It makes sense for Love to go to the Lakers because he's used to being the top guy. They can give him a bunch of money because that's what they have. He would be a great guy next to Kobe. He would help the young guys really just... And if they get DeMarcus Cousins, I feel like they'd be able to make a big three and really contend for a championship. Having said that, I think he's going back to the Cavs because it doesn't make any sense for him to go back to a team he struggled with, and it doesn't make any sense for the Cavs to have him back because they struggled with him. But that's how it's going to go. He's going to go back to the Cavs because it just doesn't make any sense for either side. But I think LeBron wants him back, and I think that's what will happen.
Oh, yeah, and the trade factor is going to play a factor in it, too. They didn't give up the Rookie of the Year for nothing.
Yeah, I agree. So we either go with Greg Monroe next or DeAndre Jordan. It'll be our last one. Who you want to go with?
Let's do both, because Greg Monroe's too easy for me.
Oh, you're going to say Knicks?
Yeah. I think he's going to be a Knick. I think his skill set fits similar to Nerlens, both power forward and center. Porzingis is way undersized right now to even think about center. But you lock Monroe in long term. If Porzingis bulks up, then you play around with it. I mean, you have 2 7-footers that you can play around with to get rebounds.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Monroe to the Knicks. I mean, it's been talked about for the past 2 years, even though he had like 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for both sides because, I mean, Monroe doesn't seem like he really wants to win that much. But if he does get a long-term deal with the Knicks, eventually it will start to come together.
Yeah, and I mean, he's one of those players that, I mean, you know, he doesn't fit the triangle, but it's nice to see that Phil's just not going after the big splash, Amari Stoudemire, ooh, if only we got him 4 years earlier. But, you look back to the old management and it was LeBron or bust, or Melo or bust, or something like that. Phil's getting quality names. Greg Monroe's not a superstar, but, it's a quality player.
Yeah, I agree with you there. How about DeAndre Jordan?
DeAndre Jordan, I think that he walks right across the hall in the Staples Center and goes to the Lakers.
Really? I think he'll stay with the Clippers unless the feud with Chris Paul is larger than expected. I think Doc Rivers doesn't want to lose Jordan, and of course Doc Rivers isn't the best GM out there, so I think if it is serious, he'd probably still keep Jordan, and if it isn't, Jordan will be back.
Yeah, I mean, I think another one had we done this a week ago, I would have probably said the Clippers, but I look at it and I think Doc Rivers realizes from his years in Boston that you need a bench to be able to compete, especially when you're in the West. And the Clippers are in a situation where they have Blake and they have Chris Paul, and adding Stevenson, I think it cripples them from being able to get DeAndre Jordan because they now have to take on Stevenson's contract. If they didn't have that, without a doubt in my mind, DeAndre Jordan's back. But taking on that money, I just don't see a way that Doc Rivers will go for it because eventually, Austin Rivers played well in the playoffs. They had guys that gave them quality minutes off the bench, and you need to be able to send them. Plus, they have J.J. Redick's contract too. I'm not sure the exact numbers on it, but it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a way they could bring back Jordan, and I think if with the beef with Chris Paul, what better way to kind of get back at the Clippers than to go to the Lakers that are trying to reestablish themselves as the team in LA.
Yeah, I mean they can realistically sign Jordan because he has bird rights, so they could go over the cap to sign him, but it would really hurt what they could do with the bench. So, I mean, it makes sense when you look at it there. We'll switch to the NHL right now, and the draft just passed. There was actually more trades that highlighted the draft than actual drafting. The Flyers had 2 first-round picks, and they ended up taking 4 forwards and 3 goalies. So Hextall has taken the Sam Hinkie approach by drafting a lot of goalies, just like Hinkie's drafting a lot of centers. Overall, Hextall had a very good draft, and how do you feel about the Rangers draft?
I liked it. I mean, I don't really know the exact, by position what they drafted, but I mean, as far as trades, I mean, they did what they had to do. They replenished. They didn't get firsts, obviously, but they replenished picks that they needed to replenish by, the recent trades for Yandel and St. Louis and whatnot. A little upset about the Hagelin deal, to send him to a contending team like the Ducks that we might have to play, if we make a run next year. That one hurt. Talbot not so much though, going to Edmonton. They're not really a threat. I mean, they drafted that McDavid kid, but they're not going to be a threat right away anyway.
Yeah.
Hagelin hurt though.
Yeah, I think it was the right move for Talbot. I mean, he really wasn't going to get any much more playing time with Lundqvist there. I think they did the right thing, moved him to Edmonton. Edmonton did a very good job not budging, not giving up a lot. So I think it was a good trade for both teams. the Hagelin trade, I do agree with you that, yeah, he'll help the Ducks, but I think you picked up a very good young forward in the trade as well. So
Yeah.
I think it helps your depth because you're a contending team, but you're trying to replenish young guys as well. And Hagelin is due for an extension after this year, I believe. He's a free agent, so he'll be asking for a good amount of money.
Yeah, I think he's actually a restricted free agent this year, so the Ducks have to sign him.
Oh, okay. So, but they'll be able to match it. So I think it was a good trade for both sides because Rangers are close to the cap with all your defensemen, Lundqvist, St. Louis. So I think it was a necessary trade. I mean, and then I don't think it will hurt you that much if Zuccarello is able to come back. I think you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. That's the big thing with the trade is that, from what I was reading, a lot of Ranger fans are like freaking out. They traded Hagelin because Shepard was god awful in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But they got that forward back for Hagelin, so that kind of eased everybody's mind. Like, okay, Shepard doesn't have to play just yet.
Yeah. The Flyers made a deal. They got Sam Gagner, not Simone Gagner, Sam Gagner from the Arizona Coyotes for Nicholas Grossman and Chris Pronger's contract. It frees up $5.2 million in cap space for the Flyers, and that's what Hextall's trying to do, clear up some cap space, build around the young guys, put them in a chance to win. It'll be a couple years rebuilding, but I think we're on the right path.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize this was the first time you can still trade a guy that's not playing, But the Flyers made a lot of good moves. I mean, they drafted well. They cleared up cap space. Very successful draft for you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think we picked up a very good forward with the 24th pick as we had the 29th. We traded up 5 spots. I think the value for him was great. I mean, he's a smaller guy. Hextall said he has the heart of a lion, and he was rated much higher, and he fell to us. And then we were able to pick up, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Ivan Prolov, I think it is. It's probably much more complicated than I'm making it, but he was projected a top 4 pick, and he was able to fall to 7. So that was huge for us. And as you know, you got to build with defense and goalies because defense wins championships, especially in hockey.
Yeah, especially in hockey.
All right, we're going to switch to the MLB right now with the power rankings. The top 10 came out today. Buster Olney tweeted them. Number 1 is St. Louis, 2 Kansas City, 3 Pittsburgh, 4 Houston, 5 Washington, 6 Tampa Bay, 7 the Dodgers, 8 San Francisco, 9 the Yankees, and 10 the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think these are all, these all make sense to me. Again, second week in a row, Tampa surprised the year so far for me. Them and Houston, but Tampa Bay trading almost everybody but Evan Longoria this offseason, and still, like clockwork, they're still good. Pittsburgh's been impressive. Their pitching this year is off the charts. Burnett looks like a whole different man from the guy that was with you last year.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that there's, 3 out of the top 10 are in the AL East. Just goes to show you how competitive that division is. They have, I think I saw something today, 4 teams that have 40 wins. So, and the rest of the American League has 4 in total.
Yeah.
So,
I think all the teams are separated by 2 games.
Is.
Yeah, I think all teams are separated by 2 games. So.
Yeah. Except for Boston, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Boston, I think, is like 9 games out. One thing about St. Louis, very, very interesting. I mean, Wainwright's out. Adams is out. Oscar Tavares obviously had a great year last year, isn't there because of his untimely death. And they're still playing amazing. They're the first team that hit 50 wins before 75 games since the 2005 White Sox. And, of course, they won it all. So just seeing what St. Louis can do I mean, you've seen it in previous years, but this year having major injuries and just still just rolling with the punches and just not even beating teams, just demolishing some teams. It's actually really phenomenal. I think if they go 500 the rest of the year, they still end with 94 wins. So St. Louis is just having a great year so far.
Yeah, and I mean, they needed it too, because that, St. Louis is such a good baseball town, because let's be honest, the Rams suck. The Rams sure aren't giving them anything. But St. Louis is such a good baseball town. They need the Cardinals to be good. Had they been middle of the pack, St. Louis would have rioted August 1st had they not had Cole Hamels.
Yeah.
Now they don't even need him.
Yeah, that's very true. We're hoping someone needs him, as us Philly fans are sitting here in limbo waiting for something to happen. One thing that happened today was very exciting for Mets fans was Steve Matz's debut.
Yeah, I was excited about that.
You want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can get the excitement off your chest. I know you're just dying to talk about it.
Bubbling inside of it. He's one of those guys that he's come on in the last year. He wasn't supposed to be this superstar prospect. I guess it kind of came on with Montero being a bust. Batting, 5 for 6 isn't that bad as far as our starting pitching prospects. But, Matz is a lefty, which we need, because Syndergaard, Harvey, Wheeler, and DeGrom are all righties. And then, I guess he must have gotten the memo that our offense was struggling, because he goes and gets 4 RBIs.
Yeah, he had the majority of your RBIs today.
Yeah. He lit a fire under Granderson's ass.
Yeah, I think he was the first pitcher with 4 RBIs in a debut ever.
Yeah, ever. It was awesome. And he doesn't even have his own bats. He took one from a teammate in AAA. It was because they barely hit down there, because if you play an American League affiliate, it's DH. Regardless of whether you're home or away. So he doesn't own his own bats, so he literally took one from a teammate in AAA and hit it. So the guy tweeted, he's like, "Yeah, you're welcome for the bat."
It was just a great debut, and it gives some much needed happiness to those Mets fans the Mets have been struggling recently. So, I mean, good for you guys. We're hoping Aaron Nola can come up and get 5 RBIs when he does. One thing that's been in baseball news the past week, very, very interesting. It seems like a blow to a guy who seemed like he was getting closer than before. Pete Rose, they found out he gambled while playing, and it seems to really hurt his chances even more to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think this pretty much ends it. I hate to say it, but I think it pretty much ends any chance, unless it's one of those Legends ballots after he passes away. I think this effectively puts an end to the speculation. It just sucks. I mean, he was such a great player, and he deserves to be in, but he just can't gamble. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I understand that it's legal, but I still think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Not just because he was a Philly and helped bring a World Series in 1980. That's not my only reason. I think betting as a manager is much more serious than betting as a player, especially the kind of player he was. Because think about if he bet on his own games. I don't think it changes anything, because the dude hit 4,256 hits, career hits. He was known as Charlie Hustle. You don't just get that nickname for running out a ground ball once really hard. You get that for playing every game of the season as hard as you can and giving it 100%. And I don't see how that could have affected his play, betting on the game. And betting on other people's games, I don't think that affects them at all either, because, yeah, you have connections. What if Pete Rose going to text someone and be like, hey, blow the game? You know what they're going to text back? Haha, no. Because what do they get out of blowing the game? So what, I don't get where his connections come into play as a player. I don't get where they are saying it affected his play if he was betting on his own games, because he's one of the best baseball players of all time, one of the best hitters. He was a very good fielder, and just he gave it 100%. Now, manager-wise, I think you can give a little more because maybe he didn't put in the lefty to face the lefty. He thought the righty could get him out, and it turned out in the team's loss. Maybe you can look at it that way because he didn't have as much control as a manager as he did a player, or he had, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's worse betting as a manager than a player, especially the player that Pete Rose was. Now, if you're saying like, I don't know, Don Brown's betting the Phillies are going to lose, I think that's a bigger issue because he's not doing anything to help them win. So, whereas Pete Rose, he did a lot to help his team win, and I think that he should be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe not as, like, I have this thing where steroid users, they should be in the Hall of Fame, but there should be a steroid section. Like, when you're in the Hall of Fame, there should be a room where you turn and go in, and it says steroid era on the front of the room, and you walk in, and it tells you the story of the steroid era, and all the players that did steroids are in that room. That's what I think. I think maybe you have Pete Rose, something like that, if you're going to put him in. I think that's the only way he would get in. I think he should be in, just voted in. I would give him every vote I could. Hopefully one day, if I become a baseball writer, he's getting my vote if he's eligible.
Yeah. I mean, you're completely right. He, as a player, he deserves to be in. You know, and that's the thing is that, you know, you look and players, if they're good as a manager and good as a player, you know, I'm pretty sure they're able to get in twice if they really want to. You know, Pete Rose, the player, before this, you know, and I'm not even going to say before this outside the lines report, because he should have been in long ago as a player. Manager, I mean, he wouldn't have stood a chance because of the betting thing.
Yeah. Well, and because he wasn't a great manager either.
Yeah, that too. But, you know, he should be in. I mean, it's... You're right. I mean, they should acknowledge it. I mean, the fact that guys like Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, you know, they're in there because their face, you know, is just kind of plastered on the wall with a record that they have. You know, but that's the extent of them potentially ever getting in. I mean, these are guys that defined baseball in their eras, and there's no reason why they don't deserve to be in. But you know, I guess the writers are going to have their opinions.
Yeah, I mean, and there's many writers that have been voting for steroid guys, and I think steroids change the way people play way more than it changes the way Pete Rose played.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just doesn't make sense to me, because if you can prove that he threw games when betting, then my view may change. But it's not like the 1919 Chicago White Sox team where there was 8 guys that went out of their way to find bookies and to throw the game because they needed the money. It wasn't anything like that. It was just him putting some money on games and him not doing anything to change the outcome.
Yeah.
So
it's sad. He deserves to be in.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I doubt he will, but that's just my view. Hey, Monday Night Light fans, if you want to get your view across, hashtag the Monday Night Lights at don'thassle_Hoff, which is me, or at Schaefer500, which is Lewis. Tell us how you feel. We would love to hear from you. I like going back and forth with.
I'm about to make us famous. See if they can listen to this.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny how outside the lines every time something looks like it's going to be positive. They come out with some other crappy story.
Yeah, I feel like they just save them. They have them just hidden
Yeah.
away, and then they're like, "Oh wait, you got that Pete Rose story from 5 years ago, right?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." They're like, "Bring it out, bring it out."
Bring it out. We need it now.
Yeah.
Let's ruin his life.
Yeah, they're good with that. But right now we're gonna switch to the NFL, and we're gonna talk some off-season grades. ESPN put off-season grades for every team on their website, so check them out. We're only gonna do 3 teams for the sake of time: the Giants, Eagles, and the team we hate together, the Cowboys.
Mutually hate.
Yeah, we're gonna start off with the Giants, and they finished with a C+.
Yeah, I think. I mean, they deserve that. I mean, they couldn't make a lot of moves because they had money tied up to Manning, money tied up to Cruz, money tied up to Rogers Cromartie and Amu Kamara. So they weren't really able to make any big splashes in free agency. They got Vereen, who fits the offense well. He's a pass catcher out of the backfield. But the whole thing with the Giants is building off of the positives from last year. They draft Flowers and Collins, but they lost Beatty at the same time. So, it comes down to they didn't really make a lot of big moves. They lost Antrell Rolle, but they got Collins. They lost Beatty for the year, but they got Flowers. They didn't make any major changes. It's a matter of this year. It's a matter of we have positives from last year in things like Eli starting to show like he learned the offense after week 8. Odell Beckham, obviously. The fact that Larry Donnell played well. We might finally have the first decent tight end since Shockey. It's all about building off of the positives from last year and hoping that it translates to some wins when we face third-place teams.
Yeah, and it can go up because, I mean, you don't know what Flowers or Collins can do on the NFL level. So if they really do show what they can do, and they really excel, I think you'll see that grade go up. I mean, it's way too early to make off-season grades, but ESPN put them out anyway, and of course we're going to look at them. So I think it has the ability to rise much higher, but I think a C+ is good for right now.
Yeah, I agree with you, and ESPN.
Yeah. The Eagles got a C. I disagree with that just a little. Mainly because they don't know about Bradford, and then you basically give up you gave up McCoy, got a hurt linebacker back, you brought in Murray, you brought in Maxwell, you didn't do anything to really fix your other safety position. I probably would give them like a B- because I think Bradford's an upgrade over Foles, just because he's a much more accurate passer, and that's what Chip Kelly's all about, short, quick passes. They did lose Macklin. I think Murray's a better runner for this offense than McCoy. I think Maxwell's great corner. I think he'll do awesome with the Eagles this year. As I say that, I'll probably turn in the Nnamdi Asomugha. And Thurman the third, he's been playing a lot of safety along with Earl Wolf, and Chip Kelly's very high on them. And if Chip Kelly's high on them, so am I. So, C, looking at it from an Eagles fan perspective, you're like, oh man, we're gonna be better than that, but I would say that's fair. And same thing with the Giants pick, or the same thing with Giants grade. It can go up, but we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think even from a Giants fan perspective, I think the Eagles deserve a better grade than a C. They did more than the Giants did, and the Giants got a C+.
Yeah.
Like I said, yeah, they lost Macklin. But for McCoy's contract, they got Murray and Alonzo, who, I mean, he was a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate 2 years ago. I mean, yeah, he blew out his knee in training camp last year, but he was a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate the year before. So, fingers crossed that he returns, for your guys' sake, that he returns to that form. And, like you said, Bradford's an upgrade over Sanchez. Over Foles, I mean. And over Sanchez, regardless. Murray, I agree with you, based on me playing with them in Madden, is better running back for your team than McCoy. And, I think Chip Kelly's offense is going to be so fast that you don't need a superstar. Not that Macklin was any kind of superstar, but you don't need a true number one. It's just run the route, catch the pass, and keep running quickly. There's no need for, we have Calvin Johnson. It'd be nice to have a Calvin Johnson, but, it doesn't seem like Chip's offense is going to need that. As long as you're over 6'5", can run a 4.4 40, you have a spot on the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And I'm surprised that ESPN only gave you a C, because, you did bring in ESPN's chosen one.
Yeah, the savior, Tim Tebow. The Cowboys did better than both the Eagles and the Giants. They got a B. I preferably think they should have got an F because they're the Cowboys. No, I think a B was a good one for them. I think their offensive line's still going to be the same as it is. I don't think they replaced Murray very well. I don't think McFadden's going to do anything there. But, they're basically the same team with an upgrade on defense. I think the defense got a little better in the draft. And I think if their line's the same, I think McFadden will have a career year.
Yeah, well, it won't take much for him to have a career year.
Yeah.
But, they added 3 first-round talents with 1 first-round pick. In all honesty. They grabbed the corner with the ridiculous combine.
Byron Jones, Randy Gregory.
Yeah, they get Gregory in the second, and then they go and get Collins undrafted.
Yeah.
They pulled in such a good draft class. I think you're right. The only knock on them, the 2 knocks you can make on them, is that Dez isn't signed long term yet, and they don't really have an answer at running back. I know my friend Nick, who submitted his all-time team, will listen to this and say that, and sing the praises of Joseph Randle when he texts me about it. But, they didn't find a solution at running back. You were thinking maybe a Melvin Gordon or Todd Gurley, and like we said before, they didn't pull that off. So right now, and for at least this year, it's McFadden and Randall, and that's not. Maybe together they might come close to what Murray did, but I don't foresee it happening.
No, neither do I. But, just like the other teams, it can go up or it can go down. I think it will go down.
Yeah.
All right, that will wrap us up this week for the Monday Night Lights podcast with your host, your very good host, Tim Hoffmeister and Louis Schaefer. I just want to give quick shout-outs to a couple guys who sent in their all-time teams, Pat LaBella and Mike Schaefer. So I will upload them teams tonight, and then I believe that will give us 6. Because there was also... there was another one that sent in an all-time team. I believe Will Cox. He's a friend of mine. I live with him, so I should have known it. He sent it in. But I didn't put it up yet. So, I'll get them up. That'll give us 6. And maybe if we get to 10 to 12, we'll start a bracket. We can get votes on the brackets. I'm actually going to try and get in touch with the guy who does the bracket battles. He has his own website. I'm going to try and get in touch with him, see if he can put the bracket up, and then see if we can get on his website to vote for it. So,
yeah, definitely.
I think that would be a great way for us to do it. I'll keep you guys updated on Twitter and keep sending them in. Spread the word. Listen to the podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Visit the website. It's updated every night.
We're all over the place.
Yeah, we're trying. We're just trying to keep getting out there. But we need your help, listeners. Just keep spreading the word. Keep sharing us on Facebook, Twitter, subscribing to us. Every bit helps.
Yep. And there should be another all-time team video coming out soon.
Oh, very nice.
Pat is one of the guys I work with, and he's good friends with my brother. So they want to see. They saw our video, and they want to see their teams go at it. So. All
right, sounds good. And then maybe we can get some challenges if before the bracket starts. Some friendlies,
absolutely.
just like before the World Cup, we'll get some friendlies in.
I'll take out all comers after I crushed you.
All right, it wasn't that bad. Kareem had a bad game.
Shaq hit 2 free throws.
Yeah, that's how I know it's fake. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week, wherever you're listening. SoundCloud, YouTube, the website. We'll be there. Thanks for listening, guys.